had stone or brick foundations, but the upper parts were made out of timber. And when they abandoned the site in the 1840s, they actually dismantled the buildings and recycled the raw materials. Problems with Point Poor was about resources and the fact that it was such a cold, windswept place. All resources had to be taken over there, and this includes water even, all the materials for their trades, rations, etc. So this almost guaranteed contact between the boys and convicts who were performing that task. And the thriving black market would grow because of that, tobacco being the main currency, of course. But it's a very important historic site, the first sanctioned juvenile prison under British control. Now, another important historic site, of course, is the small island. This is Isle of the Dead, or as convicts like to call it, Dead Island. They were certainly in possession of a less romantic view than the authorities of this place. We believe it's the last resting place for around 1,100 people. The majority of those, as you can imagine, are convicts, but to give them their proper status, convicts, that means convicted person, invalids, there's a person who can't work properly because of illness or injury, and paupers, who are men who had grown old within the system and simply had nowhere else to go, no other means of support. And finally, lunatics. The term lunatic means you're off with the moon. In other words, you're suffering severe mental illness. They're all buried along that southern end, and there's not a great deal of evidence of that because it was policy of Port Arthur that convict graves should be anonymous. The thinking being a life which has been lived in shame and disgrace would deserve no lasting memorial. That idea was only relaxed somewhat in the 1850s when a convict was permitted to have a headstone and somebody of course had to pay for it. Very few convict headstones on Isle of the Dead. Now throughout the greater part of the harbour, you're looking out towards the mouth of the harbour, access to and from Port Arthur and places elsewhere. If we were to turn this vessel about and head due south, our next landfall would be the continent of Antarctica. And at this point there is nothing else between us and that very cold place, apart from the absolutely vast expanse which is the Southern Ocean. The cliffs of Point Poor, of course, are quite prominent as well, and boys would scramble down those cliffs and gather on the rocks out of view. They would light fires, cook potatoes that they'd stolen, catch fish, smoke tobacco. Thomas Lampierre, the commissariat here, stood on top of the cliff and looked down. He said they scuttled away like little crabs. If you look towards Isle of the Dead once more and put an imaginary line down the centre of that, the left-hand side is the southern end, convicts, etc. But the right-hand side of the island, the higher ground, was reserved for burial of free people. These were